Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I know January is far gone, but better late than never, here comes my January wrap-up. Now, in January I read 6 physical books and I listened to 1 audiobook. I also DNF'd 2 books. So the first book I DNF'd in January was Outlander by Diane Gabaldon. I listened to it as an audiobook and got about halfway through. I do not think I would have gotten that far if I read the book in physical form or even if I hadn't watched the series from before, because I watched the TV series and I liked it, but the book just didn't do it for me, so I did not finish it. The second book I DNF'd was Heksejakten av Margit Sandemo. That is the second book in the Sagan om Isfolket-serien. And I would plan to finish, at least get a big jump start on the series this year, but I realized that when I started reading the second book in the series and I wasn't that into the first one, and when I started reading the second one I didn't even want to read, I decided that this series was not for me. So that's DNF'd. So to the audiobook I actually listened to this month, that was Macbeth, the novel written by A.J. Hartley and David Hewson. When I was younger I had these big plans to become an actor, and therefore I know about the play Macbeth, or the Scottish play by Shakespeare. I have never played in it, I have never read it before, although I've wanted to for years. So when I realized there was an audiobook out about it in novel form, I decided to purchase it on Audible, and so I did, and I listened to it. And it was not what I had expected, but it was still a pretty good book. So I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. So moving on to the actual physical books. The first one was Trollbundet by Margit Sandemo. This is a Norwegian one and the first book in the series Sagan om Isfolket on 47 books. I ended up finishing this, but I didn't really like it. I didn't really see the plot other than like sexy time, stylish, everyday historical fiction stuff, so I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars, and as I said, I also DNF'd the rest of the series. Then I started a new series, and that was the Glass Trilogy by Maria V. Schneider. This series is a spin-off series from her study trilogy that I have also read. Stormglass is the first book in the series, and we follow Opal Cowan that we meet in the study series. And I've had some issues with this author's writing style before, and it didn't really help to this one, and I didn't really see any plot. But I finished it because they are fairly easy reads for me, so it got 2.5 out of 5 stars. Then later in the month I read Sea Glass, the second book in the Glass Trilogy by Maria V. Schneider. This one was better than the first one. It had a bit of a more plot line, it wasn't so focused on like love triangles and stuff like that, and it had some action scenes. And at one point I actually thought about giving it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. That was the ending, because the plot twist at the ending was awesome. It saved the whole series, it was so great. And then there is this ending part with the character Devlin, and it fell down to 3 out of 5 stars because what the fuck. But for my Norwegian book of the month I plan to read Tidsrosen by Ørjan N. Karlsen. I've read this and I really liked it, and it was a fairly easy and entertaining read. It had some parts that were like, really? It has some historical fiction elements from the Second World War, and also some biblical phrases are mentioned here and part of the biblical history, and also Norwegian history and what Norway did during the Second World War. So I could really recommend this if you like paranormal and just second historical fiction based in World War II. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This book has been standing on my shelf for quite a while, and I found it was on my top 16 books to read in 2016. I finally got around to it, and I'm really glad I did. Because this book is a post-apocalyptic story set 20 years after the world has ended, and also some years before it. That is the only negative thing I can say about this book, is that it was really confusing in the beginning, because it follows a lot of different characters, both in the book's present and in the book's past, and none of these are marked, so you don't really know what character you're following unless you kind of discovered it during the chapter, which you normally did. After a while I got into the feel of it, and that kind of helped, but that confusion in the beginning kind of put it down a bit for me. I did a review on this book, and I'll be leaving the link to that down below, where you can see a better synopsis and stuff like that of what this book is about. And I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Then the last book on my TBR was Song of Susanna by Stephen King. This is the 6th book in his The Dark Tower series. I started reading this series last year, but took a break from it. Summer closed in, because warm and shiny weather don't really scream Stephen King at me. But I picked it up again, and I'm really glad that I took a break from this series when I did, because Song of Susanna was a really fast-paced book to get into the series with again. I can't say too much without spoiling anything, but if you're going to read the series and you need a break at some time, I would stop before Song of Susanna, because it's fairly easily to get into the series again with this book. It's not too many flashbacks and stuff like that. Its main focus is the story. One of the biggest downs with this book was that it's Stephen King's biggest ego trip ever, because there is a writer in this book and his name is Stephen King, and that really ruined this book for me. If King had just given the writer another name, that would be better, because now it just seemed like a way for him to excuse the fact that it took so long for him to finish this series as it did. But I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I also lied to you at the beginning of this video, because I said I had read 6 physical books. I have read 7, and the last book I read was The Hyrule Historia by a lot of different authors. This book was published in 2011 on Legends of Zelda 25th anniversary. I wanted it for some time, and I finally got it, so I had to read it through and through. It is a collection of information about the previous games, and a lot of information about Skyward Swords that was published. That was the game that came out in 2011. And also some discussions about timelines that is really interesting in the Zelda universe. So if you're a Zelda fan, you should really check this out. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And that was my wrap up for January. I have already published my February TBR. I'll be leaving the link to that down below, so go check that out. And yeah, let me know if you read any of these books and what you thought about them. And like and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye!